Round Britain Quiz with Kirsty Lang.
Hello and welcome. Teams basking in the glow of victory in the past few weeks of Round Britain Quiz can be brought low, and those smarting from defeat can take their revenge in the second half of this series, because they get to play their earlier opponents all over again, with different questions this time, I hasten to add. Marcus Berkman and Paul Sinner of the south of England are back to face Frankie Franco and Stephen Maddock of the Midlands, whom they roundly defeated last time they met. While they take stock of their question papers for the first time, let's just revisit the teaser question with which I ended last week's programme. Now, you might remember I asked in what way Bismarck, the painter of a perfect circle and a nationwide raffle, might embrace the adult version of Tiswas. Those of you who remember the early 80s might remember that the supposedly adult version of the kids' show Tiswas, broadcast on ITV on Saturday nights with much of the same cast, was called OTT, for Over the Top. And the letters OTT appear in the other answers. So Bismarck's first name was Otto. The painter was Giotto, who legendarily drew a perfect circle for the Pope's envoy who'd come to see if he was all he was cracked up to be. And the nationwide raffle is, of course, the lotto. 6 points if you got those. And do check our web pages under today's date, because you'll see today's questions laid out for you, much as they are for our panellists, so that you can play along with us. OK, let's start today's proceedings with a question suggested by RBQ listener Alan Mortiboys, and it is for you, Paul and Marcus. What might connect Bertie Wooster, the first chairman of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, and Tuscany's greatest genius? What might connect Bertie Wooster, the first chairman of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America, and Tuscany's greatest genius?
Can we start at the end? Because obviously Tuscany's greatest genius is very much a matter of opinion, so I can throw some names at you.
Go on.
Michelangelo? Leonardo da Vinci? Leonardo da Vinci.
But not necessarily in the way he'd like to be remembered.
And Bertie Wooster. I mean, there are so many things it could be.
I think the way in is to think about the second clue, the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America.
Right.
So you have the first chairman. Think about that era.
Warner, Goldwyn,
Louis B. Mayer.
He introduced something quite controversial.
D.W. Griffith.
Not the Hayes Code. It's Hayes. Ah, right. Okay. So Leonardo da Vinci, Hayes, and Bertie Wooster.
We could also have given you the Zone Improvement Plan as a clue.
So it's codes, zip code.
Yeah.
The Hayes Code.
Yes. The Da Vinci Code is that terrible novel.
Yes.
Correct.
And Code of the Woosters.
Absolutely, you got there.
Yeah.
So let's just recap that. So what might connect Bertie Wooster, the first chairman of the Motion Picture Producers and Tuscany's greatest genius, called the Code of Woosters, and then William Hayes was a chairman of the Motion Picture Producers, and he introduced in 1930 the Motion Picture Production Code, which was really the first attempt to introduce film censorship into the US, and it was known as the Hayes Code. And then, of course, Dan Brown's novel, The Da Vinci Code. I gave you some quite heavy clues, so I think that's going to be 3 out of 6.
Okay.
Okay, to the Midlands. If 1 is for a Goretzky symphony, 2 is for the end of Beethoven's Ninth, 3 is for Fanny Brice, and 4 is for John Lennon, then who's the thief? If 1 is for a Goretzky symphony, 2 is for the end of Beethoven's Ninth, 3 is for Fanny Brice, and 4 is for John Lennon, then who is the thief?
So Goretzky was a Polish composer who was completely unknown until his Third Symphony was released in about 1992 and became a very, very surprising bestseller. Very, very beautiful piece based on some texts related to the Second World War. But its subtitle is The Symphony of Sorrowful Songs. And we think sorrow is going to be useful here because the end of Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, 2 for that, is, of course, his setting of Schiller's Ode to Joy. So we have 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy.
And Fanny Bryce is the funny girl in the title of the film starring Barbara Streisand. So 3 is for a girl. And 4 is for John Lennon. We think that's for Nowhere Boy, I think it's the Sam Taylor Johnson film, the biopic of John Lennon. So we have 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for girl, and 4 for a boy. So our thief is a thieving magpie.
Absolutely, which is a reference to...
a children's TV show of the 1970s, 80s, probably. But I think that itself is based on an earlier poem, I guess.
There is a Rossini opera.
Yes, The Thieving Magpie.
The Thieving
Ragazza Ladra.
Yeah, and that ties the theme together. I would say 6 out of 6. Well done. And you got that absolutely right. OK, Marcus and Paul, it is time for your musical extracts today. So have a listen and then think about this question. What's so wonderful about these pieces of music?
Jumped in the river, what did I see? Black-eyed angels swam with me.
You heard 4 extracts, and the question is, what's so wonderful about these pieces of music?
The song that we need.
It's the song.
Damn. Is it not the Pyramid Song, is it?
It is.
So it's to do with 7 Wonders of the World.
Yes.
So, the connection is the 7 Wonders of the World.
That is correct.
Because Babylon, the Hanging Gardens...
The pyramids at Giza.
Any idea what the first bit of music might be?
So let me write it down. Let me write down the other wonders of the world. So there's the Colossus of Rhodes, the Temple of Diana...
Yes, very
Yes,
warm
which
there.
is the 4th one.
Which is
Correct.
Paul Anka?
Any idea? Paul, yeah?
Paul Anka Diana,
Correct.
1957, UK number 1. So that's 3.
Yeah, so you've got the Hanging Gardens of Babylon from Rivers of Babylon by Boney M. You've got Radiohead's The Pyramid Song. You've got Paul Anka, Diana. And you just need that first bit of music again.
I know it, but I can't remember what it is. And
Well, there's the Lighthouse at Alexandria, there's the Colossus of Rhodes.
yes,
Then there is the Statue of Zeus.
Statue of Zeus.
Oh, is it the Jupiter Symphony by Mozart?
Not Mozart, but it is the Jupiter from...
Oh, Planets at Holst.
of course it
Absolutely
is.
correct.
I knew it.
So do you want to just recap on those for me? So you have...
They're the 7 wonders of the world, of the ancient world.
Well, the first one we got was the Rivers of Babylon, referring to the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Working backwards, Pyramid Song by Radiohead. Then Diana by Paul Anka.
Yes, which refers to the Temple of Diana at Ephesus.
And then Jupiter from Holst the Planets.
Correct, which of course
Well,
refers to the
Princeton.
statue of Zeus, Jupiter at Olympia. So, OK, Marcus and Paul, well done on that. I think I'll give you 4 out of 6. OK, question 4 for the Midlands. And this is a clever idea from Martin Stubbs in Muswell Hill, North London. What 4-word headline, using only 7 different letters, would describe a news story about a colourer of wood who keeps the more unpleasant parts of eyeballs, and what kind of wine would he drink? What 4-word headline, using only 7 different letters, would describe a news story about a colourer of wood who keeps the more unpleasant parts of eyeballs, and what kind of wine would he drink?
Well, We think we've got a bit of a sort of cryptic crossword type theme going on here. A colour of wood, we think, is a stainer. Who keeps, another word for keeps being retains. More unpleasant would be nastier, and that you listeners may see a theme emerging here, in that they're all anagrams of each other, which means the parts of the eyeballs that we're dealing with here must be retinas. So our headline is Stainer retains nastier retinas.
And he would drink.
He would be drinking Retsina.
Absolutely correct. I'm very, very impressed because I thought this could be one of those RBQ questions where there was a very, very long silence, but you did
There was quite a long silence here as we looked at it, but
That was absolutely brilliant. Yes. So the four-word headline would be Stainer retains nastier retinas, and he'd drink Retsina, and that is a 6 out of 6 for the Midlands. Very well done. South of England. Now, this question's been devised by Chris Miller in Plymouth, who says it's his first ever submission for RBQ. Well, thank you, Chris. Let's see if it proves suitably baffling. Why might Sarah Mullally and Paul Butler be mates with someone playing the fool in Paris, a flag carrier in Rome, a mobile home owner in Tbilisi, and one who never forgets in Moscow? So why might Sarah Mullally and Paul Butler be mates with somebody playing the fool in Paris, a flag carrier in Rome, a mobile home owner in Tbilisi, and one who never forgets in Moscow? I suppose we need to start with whether you know who Sarah Mullally and Paul Butler might be.
Sarah Mullally is the first woman to be Black Rod or Bishop of London? Bishop of London.
That is absolutely correct. Sarah Mullally is Bishop of London.
Wow.
And Paul Butler then is the Archbishop of Durham or York.
The Bishop.
Bishop of
Durham.
Durham.
That's correct. So you've got, why might the Bishop of London and Durham be mates with someone playing the fool in Paris, flag carrier in Rome, mobile home owner in Tbilisi, and one who never forgets in Moscow?
Right. Well, let's start with flag carrier in Rome. So that could be an airline. The phrase flag carrier could be an airline, or it could be an Olympian, maybe, like somebody carried the flag at the Rome Olympics. It's neither.
I think you need to be thinking more maybe about the word mates, what it might suggest.
Oh, right.
Chess.
Oh, very nice.
So bishop. So we've got bishops, mates.
Yes.
So Tbilisi is the capital of Georgia.
Correct.
A mobile home owner, does this refer to a caravan or?
We're sort of looking for regional specificities, if you like, as the question might suggest.
Elephant is one who never forgets.
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, God. Hang on. This is to do with the different terms that bishops are called in different languages.
That is right.
Right? Isn't it?
That
and
is right.
so it's an elephant in Moscow, in Russia, and a caravan in Georgia, maybe, or
Another animal.
another animal.
Tortoise.
Yep.
Very good.
Mobile home owner.
Yes. And a flag carrier in Rome would be, I don't know.
Shall I give you that? I think it's the alfieri, the standard bearer,
Standard
is what
bearer,
they call that
Really?
particular chess
Okay.
piece in Italy. And that just leaves
clown?
you France.
A clown or
Or a jester or a
Jester.
fool.
Yes,
Jester.
the fou.
Yeah.
Because the jester can move freely around the court. That's where it comes from.
Of course.
Originally. Well done. That was a difficult one, but you're right. Somebody playing the fool in Paris. That's the fou, because it's a jester. In the French version of chess, in Italy, the standard bearer. In Georgia, it is ku, meaning tortoise, and Moscow, slon, meaning elephant. But you won't be penalised for not knowing the names in the original languages. I had to give you quite a few clues on that one, I'm afraid, so it's another 3 out of 6. Okay, it is time for Stephen and Frankie's music question. I want you to listen and think about this. Why did all of these musicians have reason to be grateful to the industry of others?
The local rock group down the street is trying hard to learn their song. Serenade the weekend squire who just came out to mow his lawn.
The public wanted to hear something livelier. And that was the reason why first Mozart and then Mendelssohn and others wrote extra accompaniments to brighten up the very simple and not very inspiring instrumentation of Handel.
So you heard 3 pieces of music and the voice, and the question you need to answer is, why did all of these musicians have reason to be grateful to the industry of others?
So the first clip we heard there was the Monkees singing the Goffin and King song Pleasant Valley Sunday. And I think one of the Monkees in particular had something to be grateful for. So Peter Tork, I think his mother famously patented Tipex, or correction fluid. And so perhaps
It's
that's
more or less correct, but not the right monkey.
Oh, it must be Michael Nesmith. Yeah, I got confused. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So the second voice, the spoken voice we heard was the inimitable Sir Thomas Beecham. Now, Thomas Beecham was famous for starting lots of orchestras, and the one thing that enabled him to do that, beyond his obvious talent, was having tons of money, because his family had made a lot of money from chemical products, so Beecham's salts, Beecham's powders, things you would find in the bathroom, and that enabled him to go around lavishing his cash on musicians first half of the 20th century.
Absolutely, a fortune made from laxatives, notably, which he used
Insert punchline of your choice here. Listen to his performances.
Which he used to promote his musical endeavours. Well done. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Now, this was also true at a similar sort of time of the French composer Francis Poulenc. And I think the fourth thing we heard was his violin sonata. And the company Rhone Poulenc, which I think still exists, was a big chemical company, and I think made a number of medical things, drugs. Again, he inherited lots of money. He did then work very hard, composing all sorts of wonderful pieces, but definitely helped early on in life by the comfort of being a gentleman of leisure from the family firm.
From the family firm Poulenc Frères, now known as Sanofi Aventis.
Okay, yes, yeah, but I think it was all the same company.
So that's absolutely right. What about the third bit of music?
So we didn't recognise this at all. It sounded sort of light and English. I mean, there's an English composer called Cecil Armstrong Gibbs, whose family also, and I think they made toothpaste, Gibbs toothpaste.
Absolutely right. The father of Cecil Armstrong Gibbs was David Cecil Gibbs, the head of the soap company D.W. Gibbs, famous for its toothpaste, which was the first product to be advertised on commercial television in September 1955. So you could say he was also linked to the launch of ITV in the UK. Well, I think he did extremely well on that. All these musicians came from families of inventors and industrialists. Just slight slip up on the Monkees. Mike Nesbitt's mother, Bet Nesbitt Graham, was the inventor of the typewriter collection fluid, first known as liquid paper, more or less the same as the German product that we know as Tipex, although not the same company. But I feel it might be a bit harsh, though, for me to dock a point for that. So I'm still going to give you 6 out of 6 for that. Okay. Paul and Marcus, what common destiny awaited the former space pilot Stephen Taylor, Lizzie Dripping, who lived in a world of her own, and Jimmy Carter, whose family were restoring an old railway engine? What common destiny awaited former space pilot Stephen Taylor, Lizzie Dripping, who lived in a world of her own, and Jimmy Carter, whose family were restoring an old railway engine?
It's an excellent question that deserves more of an answer than we're about to give. Because I haven't heard of any... Well, obviously I've heard of Jimmy Carter, but I don't think this is the Jimmy Carter.
No, it's not. No, I think that's a film or TV series.
Television is definitely a link.
But they all feel like television characters.
Yes.
Are these 3 television shows, or are they films? Is the third one a film?
So they are all linked by a particular television programme.
Oh, right, okay. Lizzie Dripping.
So they're all characters from the same TV show.
I don't think they are.
You might say they swapped fiction for real life.
They're not played by by actors who became presenters.
Correct.
They are. Right, okay.
Presenters on what?
Blue Peter?
Yes.
Blue
They're
Peter.
all TV roles played by actors who later went on to become Blue Peter presenters.
Right. So Stephen Taylor must be Peter Purvis.
Absolutely right, yeah. He became a companion to the first Doctor in Doctor Who, played by William Hartnell in the 60s, and that was Peter Purvis.
And Jimmy Carter, whose family were restoring an old railway engine, is probably Peter Duncan.
Yep. Do you remember the name of the TV series where they restored the disused railway line?
No, I don't.
It was called The Flockton Flyer on ITV.
I do remember that.
And Peter Duncan went on to become a mainstay of Blue Peter in the 80s.
And so Lizzie Dripping would be possibly Janet Ellis, would it be?
Sarah Green, maybe?
Sarah Green would be better.
Anthea Turner, that's who I was thinking.
Anthea Turner's possible.
Sort of looking at the late 70s.
Oh, Leslie Judd.
She famously became pregnant during her time as a presenter.
That is Janet Ellis, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is Janet Ellis.
No.
Nope. I might have to give you this one, I think. It's Tina Heath.
Tina Heath. Wow.
God, I wouldn't have remembered her.
Who played Penelope in Lizzie Dripping, was a children's TV series on the BBC from
Yes.
73 to 74, in which a girl called Penelope has difficulty telling fact from fiction and had a friendship with a witch. And the character was played by the young actor Tina Heath, who went on to join Blue Peter in 1979.
Wow.
Well, I had to give you quite a lot of help on that one. I'm afraid it's another 3 out of 6.
I think we did badly to get 3, really.
Okay, to the Midlands, it is your final question. Explain why you might be transported by a Geordie who sung about hypersonic missiles, a publication from the trenches, a clump of bushes or brambles, and Pericles. Explain why you might be transported by a Geordie who sung about hypersonic missiles, a publication from the trenches, a clump of bushes or brambles, and Pericles.
Well, we're going to start here with the publication from the trenches, which we assume here we're talking about the trenches in World War One.